Shalom. Welcome to another video, this one going over the pointing system in Hebrew, that is its vowel system. We'll also be discussing command forms and participles. So I've placed a chart here before you, and you can see that there are 5 sections to this chart. There are 5 classes of vowels in Hebrew: A, O, E, A, and U. You'll notice that vowels have various lengths, either half, short, or long. But length in Hebrew does not affect pronunciation. So the A vowel, whether it's half, short, or long, is pronounced as the A in father. The O vowel, whether half, short, or long, is pronounced like the O in comb. The hirik, whether short or long, is pronounced like the I in peak. The E-class vowels are pronounced like the EY in they. Again, regardless of length, half, short, or long, all are pronounced the same. And finally, with the U-class vowels, the kibbutz and the shurik, we have an oo sound, as in lute. Looking at the half vowel, the hatef patach, we have a single dash with 2 dots, one on top of the other, placed next to it. The patach is the short vowel, which is just the single dash by itself. And then the long vowel, kametz, is like a small capital T underneath the aleph. With the O-class vowels, we have that same small capital T appearing in 2 of the forms. In the hatef kametz, you have the 2 vertical dots next to it, which help to distinguish. However, with the short vowel, the kametz hatuf, you have the same marking as we had in the A-class vowels preceding. The only way to determine the difference between these two is by knowing the word and knowing the context. Finally, we have the long vowel, the holim, which is the only pointing that appears above the consonant. The hirik is either long or short. It's the same symbol regardless of length, and it's just a single dot beneath the consonant. With the 3 E-class vowels, the hatef segol is a whole cluster of dots here. We have 3 dots shaped in something like a downward pointing triangle, followed by the 2 vertical dots to the right-hand side, just like with the other hatef vowels. The short vowel, segol, is 3 dots shaped in that downward pointing triangle, and then the tsere, the long vowel, is just 2 dots right next to each other. All of these are pronounced A. Finally, we have the U-class vowels, kibbutz and shurik. The kibbutz is 3 dots placed on a diagonal beneath the consonant, and the shurik is a long vowel. Notice that it's a vav next to the consonant, following the consonant, with a dot in the middle. This segues us into a discussion of vowel letters. Recall that the pointings in Hebrew are an addition to the consonantal text. The consonantal text can function on its own apart from these pointings. In those cases, vowel letters served as these helpful indicators so that the reader would know how to pronounce the word. The first vowel letter we'll look at is this he following a comets. This only ever appears at the end of a word. And it's important to note that with the vowel letters, when they appear, they do not have a consonantal value. So a standard he is pronounced like the English H. However, when it's following a comet as a comet he, it's lost its consonantal value, and so this is simply pronounced the same as a comet. That is, it's pronounced ah. With the holem vav, we have the holem appearing above the vav. So this would come after the consonant. And again, the vav is not pronounced as a vav. It's simply indicating the holem, and so it's simply pronounced o. We've already talked about shurek, which is pronounced u. And then finally we have a yod following either a hirek or a tsere. In both cases, the yod has lost its consonantal value. That is, it doesn't have a y sound like the English y. Rather, it simply indicates to pronounce a hirek e or a tsere e. One other pointing needs mentioning here. We have the shava, which can either function as a half vowel or as silent. In the case of the half vowel, it's pronounced like the sound that the E makes in the word the, uh. With the silent shava, no sound is made. It simply indicates that two consonants butt up against each other, somewhat like a consonant cluster in English. So, in general, it can be really difficult for a beginning student to determine when a shava should be vocal or silent. A couple helpful hints to guide you in those decisions. First, anytime a shava appears at the beginning of a word, it's considered vocal. So in the word shava, you see it on the screen on the left-hand side here of the table, you have a shava underneath the shin at the start of the word. And here, because it's at the beginning of a word, it's going to be vocal. The other guideline that's worth hanging on to is that when two shavas appear next to each other, the second one will be vocal while the first one will be silent. So in the case of yichtevu, the first shava underneath the kaf is silent, while the second shava underneath the tav is vocal. I once heard the maxim stated like this: when two shavas go walking, the second one does the talking. Let's transition at this point to discuss imperatives, or commands in Hebrew. I've given you three instances on the screen. First, we have kum in the upper right, then yashav and shuv. In each case, I've given the root for the word in the upper right-hand corner. In the case of kum, you have kof, vav, mem, with yashav, yod, shin, bet, and with shuv, shin, vav, bet. These are the forms that these words will appear under in a dictionary. If you're looking into a Hebrew dictionary, you'll want to look arranged in alphabetical order for kof, vav, mem for kum, yod, shin, bet, yashav, or shin, vav, bet, shuv. Let's look a little bit closer at these tables. In the case of kum, we have the masculine singular. So this is a command given to a masculine singular object, or subject, I guess. Kum. If I'm talking to my son, I would say kum. If I'm talking to my sons, masculine plural, I would say kumu, kumu. If I'm talking to my daughter, kumi. If I'm talking to my daughters, komna, komna. In the case of a mixed group, say you have a son and a daughter, or a son and a couple daughters, or several sons and several daughters, whatever the case may be, if the group is mixed, the masculine plural form would be used, kumu. With yashav, sit, we have shev, shavu, shavi, and shevna. And then with shuv, to go back, we have shuv, shuvu, shuvi, and shovna. Our last topic for this video is going to be participles. Participles, just like imperatives, have 4 forms each. It's worth noting, just briefly, that participles are not actually verbs. They're actually verbal adjectives. That is, they are adjectives that have a verbal component to them. In the case of kum, we have kam, masculine singular, kamim, masculine plural, kama, feminine singular, and kamot, feminine plural. For yashav, we have yoshev, yoshevim, yoshevet, and yoshevot. Notice that the ending for yoshevet differs from kama. There are 2 ways to form a feminine singular participle. Sometimes we use a he, sometimes we use a tav. And also notice that with yashav, the yod is present here, whereas in the imperative it was absent. We talked in class about weak consonants in Hebrew, certain consonants that tend to disappear when they find an opportunity. And yod is one of those consonants. In the imperative forms, yod was absent. Here in the participles, we see it more clearly. So this will help to distinguish from shuv, which the participle forms are shav, shavim, shava, and shavot. Hope this helps to set you on the right path as you start looking at participles, imperatives, and try to gain a better understanding of the Hebrew pointing system. Till next time.